When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker? Send in the clowns.
Alright, so before we continue on with my review of Joker, I must illustrate that there will be massive spoilers in this review, so if you have not seen the movie, then do not watch this video. Otherwise, if you have seen the movie or if you really don't care about spoilers, then stick around and buckle up for the ride. Thank you very much. Joker is the newest addition to the film slate of DC Comics. It is an intense character study that caught me off guard, taking place in a distinctive era in 1981, which isn't connected to the overarching extended universe. It mostly focuses on Arthur Fleck, who suffers from a neurological disease that makes him laugh uncontrollably during inopportune moments. He is a stand-up clown who tries to make ends meet while living with his mother Penny Fleck in a poverty-ridden city of Gotham. If you're well aware of the basic beats, then you know that Gotham really isn't a pretty place to live in, and Fleck starts to witness some brutal interference from other individuals who change his life forever. I personally enjoyed this movie. It's something different. It's something that we aren't used to in the comic book media. While I think there can be a place for all unique characters or genres in this category, you could tell that DC made this movie to show that acting chops and a deep dive into particular subject matter such as mental illness has not been shied away from. The embodiment of this role is played masterfully by Joaquin Phoenix, as he has this giant change from a nice guy that you would see passing in the street to a cold-blooded murderer that could have been saved if he got the proper care. This is pretty much a tale of the system failing once again. We can see that Arthur Fleck is the most direct result of this notion, as the film reveals that he's been lied to his entire life when there's that scene of him thinking that Thomas Wayne was his legitimate father from the letters that Penny Fleck wrote to Thomas Wayne. Though you see later in the story that it's really a part of Penny Fleck's paranoia, leaving her son to be beaten into this condition that he has now due to negligence and abused by her former ex-boyfriend. Believe me, no pun intended. My whole theater was just dead silent during that whole scene where Arthur Fleck put the pillow over his ailing mother's face, suffocating her a la James Sunderland style via Silent Hill 2 when he suffocated Mary, and then Arthur went to the window to enjoy the sunlight. And it was that symbolic moment where it's like, my mother has been deceiving me my whole life. I have this condition because of pure negligence, and I finally have a little bit of clarity. Those demons finally let off my shoulder a little bit. Did I really think she deserved to die? Morally, I would say no. They could have made amends somehow, and I think he would have been the stronger man for letting that go. However, we are talking about the Joker here, so it's not a Joker story unless he gets something out of it. It's not a Joker story unless he goes to sheer extremes for pure self-indulgence, and I think that scene really conveyed that rather well. I think one thing that the movie really does well is they really start to make you feel for this guy. You notice that he's a byproduct of assault, and he uses assault to counteract the societal norms that paints a dangerous picture when more people start to realize that maybe this guy is behind these trail of bodies when they really just don't care in Gotham City. A lot of people just don't care about all this crime and corruption until someone comes along and they make some sort of statement. And this has always been the core of the Joker character. He has a distinct lack of acceptance, and he wants to be accepted in his own right. And for the Joker character in regards to origins, I love how this movie actually embraced that near the end, where chaos reigns and the Joker's true happiness, or rather Arthur Fleck's true happiness, is found there as opposed to the rest of his upbringing where he's brought up in torment. You can just tell that he gets off to the misery of other people, and that was a direct cause and effect to Bruce Wayne, but we'll talk about that scene later. Before anyone says it, before anyone asks me about the comparison to Heath Ledger, I'll just say that both of these guys really served a purpose for what the Joker does in each film. If you're expecting this big ass brawl with Batman versus Joker in this origin story, then you're going to be disappointed, because this is not the norm for this Joker movie. It is a complete character study of Joker and not Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne mostly sticks to being a kid in this movie. Joaquin is a very good origin story Joker in his own right, but it's just a different take. It's like the prelude to One Bad Day, except in Arthur's case, it's one bad day after the other. Everything gets worse. I can't think of a scene where Joaquin Phoenix was off screen. He is wonderful, he is tragic, he is awkward, and he is believably deranged. Most of all, it's convincing. It's like, I think Joaquin Phoenix should walk away with an Oscar scot-free. You see a role like this with a clown involved, right? So the first thing a person would do is not take it seriously because they think it's all just a funny joke. The important seal on this role is Joaquin embodying this character, perfectly showing that it isn't a joke when a life is on the line, when a life is in shambles. Ledger was also the perfect antithesis to Batman in his own movie with Dark Knight. There's no denying that the anarchy that was present, the anarchy that was at the forefront for the character, was done in a very methodical way. It was nothing short of amazing for Ledger's Joker as well. I think Joaquin is still good, but if I was forced to pick one, there is no denying that Heath was a different type of beast entirely. And if I'm going to be honest, I think that Ledger's Joker was the epitome of a modern Joker. I like both. Don't get me wrong, I really do like both. But I feel like Heath had a lot more time to shine as Joker, whereas Joaquin didn't have that time up until the last 20 minutes of the movie. To put a silver lining in between this, I do think that if Joaquin Phoenix had that time, then he would still do something great. The proof is in the pudding for the movie itself, and the proof is in the pudding that Heath was at his finest without an origin, but just the implication of the tryout scene alone and the stuff he was doing with Batman and turning Harvey Dent. That stuff just made sort of a change to the characters and impact around him than anything else in the long term, and that was really important. I felt like Joaquin's Joker was something internally changed that character, as opposed to Ledger's Joker, where everything was external, everything was methodical, and everything was beastly. I enjoyed that rendition way more, but like I said, Joaquin, he has his chops to him. Let's get into more of the interest in the Arthur Fleck character, because I don't think I mentioned that Fleck has this downward spiral, all starting with the gun that he took that was supposed to protect him when he got beat up. His friend gave it to him and he brought it to work in front of children with cancer. Yeah, that was a bad move. His friend lies to him to get out of the situation, then Fleck loses his job, and this is all just irresponsible mishaps to take with you as you go along with the movie. Like, everything gets progressively worse for this character, and then his mental state goes to shit because he loses his medication. Like, one of the few twists in this movie is that he has a love interest that he seems to like enjoy. It seems to be his new flame. I didn't question this at first. I thought it was weird that when there was the murders on the subway, obviously Arthur Fleck kills like these Wayne Enterprises employees being dicks to him, right? And she says, you know, fuck those guys, they deserved it. I thought, that's kind of weird. Why would she even agree with that? And then we get to the twist in the movie, and I do say, like, later on, it's a bit of a criticism because I felt it should have been more twists in the movie. But the big twist in the movie is that Arthur Fleck made all this stuff up in his head with this woman who he's supposedly courting. Like, there's one scene where he's straight up in this woman's apartment and she says, "Who are you? I don't even know who you are. Who is this? Why are you in my house? My kid is like sleeping right across the next room. Could you please leave? Who's your mother? Do you need help?" And that caught me off guard. I'm like, oh shit. So he made everything up in his head, and the whole time he wanted this support, and he probably saw this woman like once in the beginning of the movie, but she never had these affections for him. And I thought that was pretty great. I wish it was more of that in this movie with Arthur's rampant delusions. It's almost like a Silent Hill-esque Jacob's Ladder mindfuck, where something happens in the beginning, you might pick up on it as telltale signs of being weird, but you see that it was a big twist and it was all in his head. And I just wish that it was more of the stuff in here. That was a pretty cool twist, if I'm going to be honest. I'm also happy that they kind of debunked the information that was relayed to us about Arthur Fleck being related to the Waynes. I don't know, man, it just felt off to me. Like, as a big Batman fan, it would have been a dumb idea to shoehorn in the fact that Arthur Fleck is related to Bruce Wayne. I don't think that would have been interesting, to be honest. I'm all for going off the beaten path and not making things so comic accurate. I don't dwell on comic accuracy either. I'm all for like reinvigorating backstories to make something interesting, but I just thought that was kind of dumb, to be honest. So I was kind of stoked when Thomas Wayne punched out Arthur and he said, you know, "You fuck with my son again, I'll kill you." I thought that was great to cap that off and show, yeah, Thomas Wayne is still kind of a dick, but in this situation with the implications of his mother and all this stuff, he's innocent. Arthur's really an adopted child. It's also kind of unfortunate that I'm now discovering like there was a couple of scenes that were cut in this movie. Hopefully there's like an extended sort of unrated edition of Joker, because supposedly from what I see in this tweet that I'm showing you guys right now, there was a funeral scene that was cut for Arthur's mother. I'm sure some people might say it would have been mundane, because after Arthur Fleck effectively burns that bridge and kills his mother himself, all because she neglected him in the past, and he finds out the truth, why would he have any reason to be there during the funeral? But I still would have liked to see how this would have played out. Maybe they could have had a scene where the abusive boyfriend actually shows up, the guy who made Arthur into who he is, because he is also like a main catalyst of that situation by giving him the neurological disorder, because they said it was related to the beating that he got when he was tied to the radiator. Maybe he could have showed up at the funeral and they could have made a powerful scene with that. I just wanted the knife to be twisted further into this character's side and his delusions to be explored more. I did think that the scene with the big guy riding coattails with his little midget was gold. You sort of get this grim context after Arthur kills his mother with the line, "My mom died, I'm just celebrating." There's this darkly comic moment after Arthur Fleck shanks the hell out of the big guy Randall, who's the guy that lied to him about the gun and everything. He shanked the fucking shit out of him. Jesus Christ, that scene was violent. And the midget couldn't reach the freaking lash, dude. It took me a moment to realize that this was also core character moments where Joker also puts these people into situations and you don't know if they will live or if they will die. The joke's on you instead. Whether you live or die is up to Joker. And in this moment, Arthur Fleck decided, you know, a little bit of Arthur Fleck came out. He decided, hey man, you treated me just fine in my life. You've never been mean to me. You've always been the one that's been nice to me. And he left the little guy off the hook trying to unlatch the doorknob, and I think it was, I forgot what it's called, door latch, whatever the fuck that lock is. I know the little guy couldn't reach it because he was 4 foot nothing. All right, that's all we need to know. He was 4 foot nothing, couldn't reach that motherfucker. This is why I also liked Joaquin's portrayal here, because this Joker has some vestige of humanity and he let this guy go. Even if the Joker basks in the glory of killing people at this rate, it's almost really kind of nice. He does something nice when someone returned the favor to him. It's almost like an anti-bully message, like don't be a dick. If you're nice to somebody, you might get saved, you might get let off the hook. And they tried to convey that because the guy did not die. Like, he got out of there. You know, he's never been mean. He never lied to Arthur or anything. Flex still has a soft layer of conscience to understand that he's lost everything. However, there's also people that probably still mean something to him. It's a small minority that can still matter in Gotham. Hey, maybe it could save a life. They see clowns as complete monsters, but Joker doesn't give a fuck at that point. He embraces this violent nature to upset the establishment, to figuratively show that the old ways probably need to change, to show a more powerful message that mental illness is really no joke. Of course, he's still a killer clown, so not everyone is going to agree with him. I just thought it was all leading to the suicide by gun mime on the talk show he was invited to by Murray. Even his greatest idol treated him like shit in the end, and that was also another message. Hey, maybe you shouldn't really bully all these people. You might get shot in the fucking head later on. Just as the general audience thought, I thought the same thing. I thought he was going to go on the show, kill himself because he's tired of living. I mean, even in the journals that he had, he basically alluded to suicide at this rate. A very, very, very strong topic. You know, suicide, what causes it, what causes you to be so depressed, people not getting the help that they want to reach out for. We recently had the situation with Etika, some very heavy stuff, and it is conveyed in this movie to some extent. And I thought he was going to go through with it on the talk show to finally feel like he's going to end it right there, and he really didn't. Like, you can see in the character's face during the whole scene where he's on stage and he's waiting for Murray to introduce him, that he's having some second thoughts. He's talking to the guy he looked up to his entire life. Maybe he could get coerced as to not go through with it, or maybe he can see Murray as maybe like he made fun of him before, maybe he'll change his mind. So you're thinking this like during the whole scene, and he's just like having this serious conversation with him, talking about society, etc. And then Murray just gets clapped. He gets completely clapped right there, and I'm like, oh shit, on national TV too. And I did not see it coming. It's also something I didn't see coming. I feel like the movie just had like two big twists, and it just boiled down to this point in time, and you don't know. It's like that unpredictability factor where the Joker says he just does things. You don't know what's going to happen, whether he wants to kill himself or kill somebody else, and that leaves you like biting your nails on the edge of your seat. That really is true suspense when you don't know a character's motivation and you want to see what happens next with this character, and you want to see how this all pans out and plays out. And I thought they did that in scene rather beautifully. I know there's a little bit more after this with the whole symbolic nature of the Joker having all this chaos around him and all the supporters like supporting his decisions on national TV and upsetting the established order and making this big ass riot in the streets. And he has like this moment where he puts his fingers like in his mouth and he makes a bloody smile. I thought that was great. That was cool. The music is cool in this movie too. It's really like, I like the whole rock scene where he's like jumping down the stairs and doing air humps and just going absolutely insane because he wasn't Arthur Fleck at that point. Fully transformed, fully made a metamorphosis into a completely different person from how he started in the movie to how the movie ended. And that's a nice transition. That's a nice change to get that slow burn and understand this guy probably was going to be a martyr in front of national television, citing there is no punchline, it's not funny anymore, life's not funny anymore, and he changed his mind because he's unpredictable. I think this movie also borrowed like, well, this is one of my few criticisms, because even though I thought this was a great movie, there is criticisms to be had. Alongside the twists not being very, very prevalent and not seeing more of the mental metamorphosis in certain scenes where he's making shit up, I think this film embodied way too much from Taxi Driver and Kings of Comedy. There are clearly some established cues and parallels to those movies that it almost feels a little bit too copy paste. I think this movie really borrows a lot from Scorsese. Don't get me wrong, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and that inspires all kinds of different movies. It's still a beautifully mature centerpiece. However, it's not the most original when you have scenes of Arthur mimicking the finger gun to his head. Like, it's very reminiscent to Travis Bickle. Hell, even Robert De Niro himself is in this movie as Murray, which can't be a coincidence. You can't even say that the basic outline of a man falling apart didn't already happen 40 plus years ago. At least Joker puts his own unique stamp over this pre-established setup to make things more interesting. So it's not really the worst homage in the world. It's just not wholly original, which is something I would have preferred if you gave me the choice. They did have the whole scene with Thomas Wayne and Martha being gunned down in their version of Crime Alley, I think. I know folks would love to think that this movie is better as a one-off, and I partially agree that it should be, but we all know that this probably might not even happen because guess who is backing DC Comics and film? Warner Brothers. And the survey says that Warner Brothers likes money for a sequel because they know this was going to go over well. We're starting to get into this weird DC film multiverse now if they're also going to do DCEU Batman, which is not going to take place in the realm of the Gotham continuity with Joker in 1981. Is going to be set in the DCEU, but I find it funny that they're getting rid of the previous actors with Pattinson's Batman. Ben Affleck off the table. J.K. Simmons off the table. He's not Commissioner Gordon anymore. He's being played by Jeffrey Wright, even though I heard that Wright is a really good actor. Again, the Joker isn't really tied to anything as well. So like I said, that whole multiverse thing rings true. You got different timelines, different characters, different establishment, all going into a circle and not interacting with each other. They're breaking the chain each and every single time this circle goes forward, and they're making like zigzags, lines throughout the whole DCEU continuity. I hope this doesn't get too weird with Flash, because I remember at one point they wanted to make a Flashpoint movie. I hope they don't do that now, because I just don't think they're ready for something like an alternate Flashpoint timeline. Maybe that's just me, but I don't think they need to go that route with the DCEU and then somehow make some some jury-rigged reason why there needs to be a DCEU New 52. I honestly think that's going to be very convoluted to explain, but hey, Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Batman, I like that. That's awesome. That would be cool. He would be cool as Thomas Wayne. So you have Rob Pattinson Batman and you have this Joker. Anyway, that had to be the true reason why they created this scene last minute, because this wasn't a Batman movie at all in the first place. This movie is all about Arthur, not Bruce. On the other hand, you could say if I had the choice to pick who would be Joker going forward, then I guess I would say that it really wouldn't be Jared Leto. I mean, who wants Jared Leto over Joaquin Phoenix in the first place? Yeah, that's an easy choice to make. I'm not fully opposed to a sequel because you don't see Joker at his 100% metamorphosis in the full runtime, but I'm also indifferent to the proposal because I just don't want them to fuck up something that was good with a sequel. We've seen this done countless times before. We've seen the feud with Joker and Batman. However, Batman and Joker will always be yin and yang, so I can see why they put that scene in there. It's a pretty constant reminder about these two individuals, and I think no matter how different the story is, these two are always going to stand the test of time against each other. That's why the final scene from Phoenix almost being satisfied that he ruins Bruce's life is the perfect irony. Now Joker has potentially created something good with this new vigilante crusade that will happen in the future while ending a lot of lives lives in the process while also doing the wrong thing. That should bite them in the ass later if they decide to go for it with a sequel, but I would want a Joker sequel to focus on Joker and not Batman. Batman should just be the underground boogeyman. He should be the antagonist of a Joker 2. If we're going to talk about film critic controversy on this movie, then first things first, leave your child at home. They shouldn't be subjected to R-rated content in the first place. Please have a brain and understand that not every child should be subjected to adult content. I know I personally was subjected to adult content at a young age, but it is good to have some parental supervision in play here. That being said, the critics talking about Joker glorifying violence and all this shit, right? I can say that the critics are ignorant as usual, because it's almost like they wanted someone to get caught in a real mass shooting during the promotion and advertising and the release of this movie, when none of that really happened. Once again, this drives home the point that untrue narratives in fiction creating serial killers is kind of bullshit. The harsh reality is that fiction doesn't create killers, but unchecked mental illness alongside aggravation of bullying or just a pure depression of life going unchecked. Even going a step further and seeing this sick, twisted nature manifest into the psychotic with the need to hurt and be violent towards others. That causes killers. This is the real situation here that people aren't focusing on. They tell you that it's a serious problem in the movie, that it shouldn't go unchecked, and it doesn't even go unpunished because Joker is apprehended during the film after the whole killing spree is over. The Cineplex that I went to, it was pretty chill for the most part. They even clapped at the end of the film, showing that Joker left a powerful impression on people. The violence in this movie isn't encouraged. As a matter of fact, it's very minimal. I'm sure your carbon copy Rambo movie has a lot more blood, gore, guts, and ass falling all over the place. Joker is violent, but it's only violent in the sense of painting a picture for the plot, and is very minimal. It's very minimal violence here. I'm telling you, people, if you watch Deadpool 2, that movie is leagues more violent than something like Joker. Arthur Fleck's actions are not sympathetic at all, and there's even consequence in his actions when Bruce's parents are indeed killed by Joker's influence. Now he's effectively created something that's good, that goes against his delusional principles. He's possibly condemned by co-workers, friends, and other people. You've seen how that lady in the apartment reacted to him when he had these thoughts that, oh, maybe she loves me. She wanted him to leave. This stuff happens. He has consequences for his actions, and I don't believe people were paying attention when they were watching this movie. I think this film puts mental illness under a microscope, and it shows this can be the result of someone who has wanted help from the system, and everything has failed in their favor, and the system is not paying attention. Anyone thinking this is the most violent movie ever made, they need their goddamn brain re-examined. They need to stop looking for clickbait bullshit to get attention. This is not a murderous rampage movie. This is not a snuff movie. Critics need to stop fucking lying to themselves if they think it is. In conclusion, Joker is a welcoming refreshment by venturing into some mature character study with this distinct individual. It's really good, thought-provoking even, but it's not wholly original, and honestly, there are some aspects to Ledger's Joker that was done better. But this movie does keep you captivated throughout with stunning cinematography, stunning believability, and while the slow burn of the movie will show that this isn't a film for everyone, the acting and everything else was certainly phenomenal, and the story was something to talk about, and I am glad this movie was an intriguing surprise nonetheless, and at least is very, very well made, and I would want more mature R-rated DC movies that break the norm and that can stand alongside traditional comic films to say, hey, there's something for everyone. I give Joker a letter grade of an A-. Anyway, thanks people for coming out and watching my Joker review. I hope you really loved it. I kind of went on script and I kind of went off the cuff, but I wanted to speak my mind, and hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video. I know it's almost 30 minutes long. I've been talking, that's been crazy, but I really wanted to get my thoughts and impressions and review of this movie out there so you guys can see it, enjoy it, and hopefully you like the movie as much as I did. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you really enjoyed this review, and I will try to put out more in the future. I will see you guys later. This is Renegade Operative signing off. Be sure to follow me on social media as well, which you see on the splash screen right now. And once again, take care and be good people. See you later.